Okay, so welcome to this episode of the podcast. I am super grateful to have Ger Lyons here with us, who is an international spiritual teacher and trauma therapist. I have had the honor of being in your circle many, many times, but I would love for you to do a brief biography in who the heck you are.
Cool. Thanks, Delain. Yeah, brief biography would be, I suppose, maybe an important place to start would be when I was very young. I had a head injury, and so I would get all these headaches, and it was just a simple, stone in my head in a childhood accident. But I used to get all this headaches and all this kind of tension in my head and my neck, and I went to a local traditional healer in Cork City, my hometown in Ireland. His name was Bill. And he did some very extraordinary work, which I did not understand at the time. Later on, years later, after this accident, and I came out of his room feeling very, very different and coughing up all this black stuff. And it completely cleared, even though I didn't understand what he was doing. And it wasn't any, it wasn't like a normal, ordinary medical practice. It was a very traditional healing. It totally cleared and healed. I never had any problems with my head again. So it was quite extraordinary, and I became very interested in from then on in how things work, how they don't, in particular with regard to healing and how some people can heal things, how some people can't, why people get disease, why people get sick, why people have pains and different aches and all kinds of things from accidents and injuries. So I got very interested in biology and physiology and how things work in the body from my own experiences. That was just one of many, many experiences that I had that were quite unusual, that led me, I suppose, down a path, a very interesting path of exploration and discovery as to how and why these things happen, and therefore leading to how and why we can heal things and clear things and release things. So when I suppose I really got interested when I realized the depth of how we could go in the human psyche and the human energy field, and and then leading to spiritual dimensions and spiritual realities and the spiritual world. So when I started exploring more in many different traditions, it just opened up world after world after world to me to go deeper and deeper into potential impossibilities where we could just help people with a whole different, pretty much anything, at different stages, depending on, where people are at and if people are ready, and lots of different factors that affect healing. So it just opened up this huge world to me. So I started studying Chinese medicine when I left school, and I went to university in China, worked in some hospitals there, and one thing led to another, and I spent a lot of my adult life exploring different healing traditions, different spiritual traditions that could show me how we can get to the core of many difficulties and challenges that people would have in trying to help themselves heal from all kinds of different stuff. So I suppose that was the beginning, that kicked me off and kind of springboarded me off into the great mystery of things, meeting this very extraordinary gentleman, just a local, simple man at home, but a very quite brilliant and very curious, inquisitive gentleman who was open. He was very, very open-minded to all these different worlds and all these different traditions that he combined, as well as our own native tradition in Ireland, where we're a mix of Celts and Norwegian, mostly Norwegian Vikings in Ireland from way back. So our two traditions combined, and then also combined with many other traditions. That was Bill's study, and that continued to be mine. So I opened up my whole world outside of Ireland to travel to seek out these, more people like him, basically, that knew and had the wisdom and had education and the curiosity to discover these worlds. So I spent a lot of my younger years seeking out these particular individuals who had real experiential knowledge and could really help heal people and help people.
Okay. Would you say that that path that you started when you were so young was unusual for your family, or was there a strong spiritual tie to that type of medicine already?
Yeah, um, it was a little bit unusual, but it was actually my mom. She's still alive. She's 92 years old and she's amazing. And it was actually her that suggested to me to go see this man. So my family were very open and they still are, to many different things. We come from a traditional background, and like I was just a normal, ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill young guy, growing up. But I just had a very strong curiosity, and my family were, they'd been through many things like most families, so they were open. My dad was like a philosopher. My mom had a very deep faith. She still does, and so they were open to these things, even though they followed a traditional way, but within that way there was a lot of flexibility and openness. So I was lucky in that respect, where they encouraged me to seek and find and explore, and they knew, I wasn't much interested in the kind of mainstream world in school. And
Right.
so then they were looking at me and watching and observing, so if he's not interested in this kind of line and going to university and being some regular line of studies, what's he going to do? So they were pretty much delighted, and also I think very curious to find out how I was going to end up. And so so from my perspective, I end up like, I'm very happy doing this. I'm very it's so interesting for me. Some people might not believe these worlds or not believe these things or find it boring or something, but for me it's like to journey into the human psyche and into the human soul with somebody, and to be able to witness that is so precious and it's so powerful and so beautiful. It's amazing. It's incredible. And because you've no idea what's going to come through that door when somebody enters a room. And people have so many experiences in life and so many experiences that they've got through, so many difficulties and challenges. So that's one of the things I've been super interested in, is when people hit a wall in their lives at different times, and something becomes very difficult, some obstacle or hurdle to get over, how some people manage these things very well, and some people they suffer and they struggle, and it's not so easy. So those differences, I've been very interested in the difference between why, and these questions I asked myself and asked people over many times over the years. Why is it very easy for somebody to go down a line and heal, and quite difficult for other people and maybe struggle with healing or changing or transforming their lives? So yeah, I mean, coming back to your question, it's the family life at home was great. It was really good because it had its moments like every family. But I was lucky for sure, in respect of there was an openness there already, and there was definitely a curiosity, and there was pretty much no resistance. There was a lot of support to do whatever it is that I'm here to do. And so yeah, there wasn't much resistance there. It was an openness that was really, really good and helpful. I know a lot of people struggle with the lack of that, with closed minds and rigid rigid upbringings and rigid mindsets that some people can carry, and that's really difficult. That's really difficult to come up across that, and or not be allowed these things, or for it to be dismissed as children. That can be very difficult, because you tend to shut down and close off and numb out, and then only later on are you sometimes do you feel free to explore these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that a level of openness important for healing, like if you're going into sort of like that spiritual healing, the aspect of what you do inside of circle, um, how important is that level of openness for the individual coming in?
So I think it's important insofar as some people come with closed minds and they can be opened, and that's fine. Some people come with, I don't know, and it can be revealed to them and they can know. But so there's no problem with somebody, you know, usually there's no problem with somebody having a closed mind or not being open. But the problem can become quite difficult if somebody doesn't have a willingness to open when they're presented with an opportunity.
Right.
So if they choose to remain closed to, and not just to ideas and concepts and theories, because this work that we're doing is not for in healing and transformation. It's not really a mental intellectual process at all. Of course, we go into transpersonal psychology, many different things and many different conversations, but it's very much an experiential, visceral, tangible, experienced transformation where we're dealing with prayers, and very powerful prayers and invocations, incantations from very old traditions, and that are very potent and very real. So people, when the healing energy comes through, when the light comes through, it's very hard not to believe or have faith or open when you feel it. It's kind of like, maybe somebody in the center of a massive continent and they've never seen the ocean before, and so you bring them to the ocean and they're they might even blindfold themselves and not want to see it. But once the first wave crashes over them, they're wet and they're soaked and all their clothes are saturated, and it's no longer a theory or a concept or a belief. They're in the ocean, they're in there. And so it's a little bit like that, and that's the experience we try to give people. Not that we try, but that's what just naturally kind of unfolds like that. It reveals itself like that. And it's so when you feel it and when it heals you can't deny it, and really people have no choice but to open. So I have no problem with people being skeptical or being being not sure or being closed-minded or having all kinds of other mindsets and beliefs and or faiths or traditions or religions. I've no problem with any of that, as long as people come with a willingness to experience, a willingness to explore, a willingness to be open when that wave crashes over you and go, look, okay, this is water. I'm surrounded by water now. And so, the light reveals itself to people, and it becomes a much more different experience. So it's not something really that I suppose, like in a normal conversation where we're intellectually speaking or discussing or not arguing, but if there's challenging comments made and people, it's not an intellectual discussion, which makes it a whole different world, a whole different thing, so it's easy in that respect. So basically, as long as people have a willingness to explore, that's all you need. That's all you need. It's really not a problem.
Do you find that somebody has, for the first time, to use your analogy of the ocean, and they're in it, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, I'm in the ocean. Now what do I do? Because we spend so much time in our head, but when it's like all of a sudden now it's in the body and feelings are coming in, is the tendency to then try to be like, ooh, I got to go back in. Like, this is so foreign to me that I don't even know, well, like, what do I do with that? Is that a normal response for people?
Yeah, sometimes that's not really a common response, but that can happen for some people. if they're ready and if they're kind of on the edge of a breakthrough or a major breakthrough, and they have, a revelationary experience or something very deep experience. But really, for most people, that's our inherent, innate state of being, is to be in that ocean and know that we are a part of that ocean, know that we're part of this great love and this great light of the gods, of our, the God that created you is there somewhere. And even if we don't believe, even if we've forgotten, or, from childhood, even if it's been beaten out of people or something, or traumatized, or people are shut down and closed off, when it does open up, usually 9 times out of 10, people have this great remembering, a very deep remembering, that we come from the ocean and we're going to the ocean. So there's some part of them, some part of their soul, in a way, recognizes and is familiar with that experience, and that kind of anchors them, and they feel, and the experience, it anchors them, and they feel this sense of, usually this sense of very deep love and very deep healing, and this deep coming home to that connection inside us that we all have for whatever it is, the God that created us, the source of where we came from and where we're going, basically, and everyone has a different way to experience it, or to see it. And some people don't like to call the source of all creation God because of religion. Some people call it different things, but it doesn't matter. It's like a glass of water that we have. In our old Irish language, we call this ishka. In English, it's called water. In Chinese, called it shui. Every language has a word for it, but it doesn't really matter what we call it. The important thing is that when you're thirsty, you can drink it. And this is the only important thing, pretty much. And that's what we try to give people as much as possible, as fast as possible, as deep an experience as possible, is, not to talk about it, explain or analyze too much, to give people basic grounding, but just to give them an experience, as deep a possible experience of that love and that source of power that each person has to reconnect through, shine through that darkness that we might have going on, or through the ignorance, or through the just not knowing sometimes, or through the trauma, just shine through that trauma. And,
right.
and this is what we want to give people, is is the hope and the light and the potential, to see the potential and possibilities, that who we can be in this world, and how we can be of service in this world in much more greater ways, and much more fulfilling ways that maybe we have already. And if people are already in deep service, or on a sacred path, or in a way have a connection, then we try to make that as deep as possible, so they can go deeper, they can reach higher, and become even more aware of different things, that will help them to, like that old saying, to be the best possible version of themselves, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's our main, I suppose, hope for people, is to give people hope, and to give people a sense of connectedness, not just with themselves and their own God, their own creator, but that light that can really shine through darkness, and dark times in particularly, that it can, really anchor them, and be a grounded, solid foundation that can save people's lives, basically.
What's the impact of doing that as a group? Because I know when we sit in circle and we gather together, what's the role of the group play in when people are moving through this experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I love the group work, because it's very, very powerful. It's very potent, because this energy, and this healing energy, and this light comes through everyone. So it's no longer just one-on-one or a small group. If it's a bigger group, the more people there are, the more light is going to come through. if you can imagine 30 people in a room and you turn on 30 large beams of light instead of just one small bulb in the middle, it's going to be a very powerful experience. And so, because the energy, the healing energy comes to everyone, comes to all of us, not just me or not just some one person or something, right? It comes to the whole group. So it's a very powerful thing, and it connects us all in the work. And it's really beautiful. One of the most beautiful things is that when we go around the healing circle and the transformational space, everyone gets to share their version of life and whatever it is that they want to bring to the table to work on for that day or that workshop. And as they share, there's a great support in the communication, and there's a great solidarity in hearing. Sometimes you get to hear parts of your own story or different pieces of your own story from different people. So there's a great camaraderie and a great sense of, we're all here for the same reason. We're all here with a similar focus, and that focus is very powerful. So when we come, when a group of people gather to focus on anything, whatever it is, it could be a group of carpenters, a group of hairdressers, a group of artists sculpting, it could be anything, a group of musicians. You get a very, very powerful experience, and they can create masterpieces of, art or music or this ornate carved table, whatever it might be.
Right.
And so in the healing capacity then, and the spiritual path work to, reveal that through people, it can be very powerful because it can become very fast. So sometimes when you try to do things on our own, for example, I come from a family of boat builders. So if you want to try and build a boat on your own, it's going to take you a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Right? Making a lot of mistakes, you're going to need a lot of help, and it's a hard job. So you need a team of people, like most things, like most kind of work. You need a team of people supporting you and checking your measurements and checking your, all your different things. But also there's a great support. So in the healing capacity, there's a beautiful, this focus makes it a very strong and very fast process, where when we share different pieces of different themes and different elements, we can come up with a whole big picture and a very well-rounded picture of a certain theme, and then the whole thing can lift out of people very, very fast once we have all the pieces together. So the group work is very, very powerful, very fast, and it makes it very, very interesting, Right. And also we go to amazing depths within yourself, sharing and experiences with that. So you make lifelong friends. You make very solid friends that I have many friends that have been working with us for a long time or have trained in our work and go out and are doing this work, and these are family. These are family for me. I know some of our crew have been working with us for 15, 20, 25 years, and it's extraordinary. You made this very solid community, family of friends that also through those years and through those times, we can offer each other huge support, so it's really beautiful path and way. And also, different people bring through different elements of existence, right, and different elements of that light and different teachings. So it's not just coming through one person,
Would you say that community is something that we've kind of lost touch with?
You mean like generally in life?
Yeah, in general.
Society. Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that, in order to have peace and in order to, not have so many issues or problems or challenges, I think people have retracted often over centuries and generations, maybe to have their own space and more space and more space, which is fantastic and which is great to, live more and more on your own to get that peace. But there's also a great cost to that. There's a great cost to that. So now what you get is, a lot of people live in big cities, but they're lonely. A lot of people with children, bringing up children, no longer live near their parents or grandparents or cousins or relatives. And that can be really difficult for, many people feel a lack of support, a lack of community, a lack of tribal connections and nurturing. And so when you look at indigenous cultures and you look at Aboriginal cultures and First Nations cultures, there's these really beautiful, powerful elements of the way society was in many different traditions and cultures that we have lost, where you can no longer throw the baby to your niece or to your sister or to your neighbor, and run down to the shop. It's now a big deal. It can be difficult. It's very difficult. So I think we've definitely, in modern life, through modern ways and things in Western modern style life, we've definitely lost, for sure, that sense of community and network and kind of tribal clan living, where there was, where there's huge support, where in some clans and tribes, and people would gather every single evening. Every single evening, you'd have 150 people in a village or in some area where people would live, and they'd all share food and they'd share experiences. And then if you needed space, you just go off and into your own place. But
it's a lot of independence.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we live in a world now with a huge amount of independence, and people have their own beautiful apartments, which is fantastic. But a lot of people are lonely. Some people are not.
And we try to do everything on our own, including our healing, or it's hard to ask for help or to reach out, or it feels foreign almost to sit in that space.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a great cost to the loss of that. It's really sad, actually, because community can also drive you crazy, and there's always things and material and issues and problems with people. But that's the whole point. We haven't come here to be perfect. We haven't come here to live these perfect lives. We've come here to explore ourselves in relation to each other, in relation to the environment and the world and the cosmos and everything. And we've come here to explore. So, that's all part of it. And also living in community, you develop great patience and tolerance and non-judgmental, non-critical, all these qualities that are really, really beautiful and really important. So we naturally develop, you naturally forgive very fast. And, it's, if you watch most people's grandparents, they're just very relaxed and they're very, they've been stretched and stretched and stretched.
Yeah.
And pretty much forgive everything, so when their grandchildren come along, it's like, they've limitless patience and this. And so tribal community living, clan living, it creates this,
So when you're doing the community healing and you're in that space, there's listening to everybody's story and kind of what they have gone through and what they're sharing. Would you say that there is a different opportunity for healing when you're holding space for somebody, and then when you are the person sharing? Could you share a little bit about that, as far as being the witness and then being the person speaking?
Yeah, sure. I think it's very important the first thing is to listen very deeply and very clearly and continuously until somebody's finished speaking. So we encourage people to speak and talk and share anything they want to bring to the table. And so the first most important thing is, there's a huge difference between hearing what somebody is saying and really deep listening and focusing, giving somebody that focus and taking in what they're saying and very deeply listening to that. That's half the work. Actually actively, deeply listening and caring about what somebody is saying and focusing on what they're saying as if it's a very important thing, because it is a very important thing. That's half the work in therapy and healing, is to allow somebody the space and the time to say whatever they need to say, to express whatever they need to, in a safe place, in a sanctuary, in a prayerful, holy place that's been set up as a sacred environment. So in the healing space, it's a very different place to, sitting with somebody in the cafe or, around the kitchen table, because there's a very specific active living energy that is, so there's prayer and there's incantations and invocations to bring through a very, to basically ask for the presence and grace of the God that created you to be there and to heal. So you ask for a space to be created with very specific prayers and very powerful prayers. So that sets up a sanctuary, that sets up a temple, just like any holy place, just like a mosque or a church or synagogue or a stone circle or a sweat lodge or whatever any holy place is to any people. It's a place of prayer. It's a place where the presence and grace of God resides, and all the gods, and it's a place, it's a temple. So there's protocol and there's rules in a temple of respect and silence and all these different things. So that gives people the safety and the space and the time and the grace and the light, and so they're surrounded in this very, very non-judgmental, safe place to then be able to share. So that's very important, and it's a very different thing to just hearing what somebody's saying in a cafe, to deep listening in a sacred space. Is that, like I said, is half the work. Right. and to allow them to fully say anything they want to say, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it sounds like, as long as it doesn't harm anyone else.
Right.
That's, to allow them to share their history or share whatever pain that is, that's huge. And then the next step is when we go through everyone's sharing, then we start saying these healing prayers, very special, specific healing prayers that have a special focus and a special energy. And so the prayers, we all speak them together. So it's not just me, standing there saying things. Everyone speaks. So it's an empowerment process for everyone. So it turns out eventually that each person is speaking, saying the same thing. We're all saying the same thing, the same prayers. And so people end up in an empowered situation, bringing through the healing themselves. So that's what we teach people to leave when they leave the workshop after a few days or however long they're there. They can continue this conversation with their creator and create their own space at home, and they can continue the healing at home. So this is, so then, it doesn't create a dependency, or they don't have to go through someone else. And that's very important, to have your own individual sovereign, connection with your creator, where you don't have to go through some, special person or some guru or somebody who has some corner on God. Nobody has a corner on God. Right. So I love to teach people that, you can be driving your car, you can be in the cafe, you can be going to sleep at night, and you can just start saying these prayers, and you can, start practicing with your children at home, with your family, with your neighbors, and, pretty much as soon as you leave the workshop, and feel the same power and the same energy and the same light that came through in the workshop. So you can bring that home. You can basically turn your home, your apartment, your house into a temple of light, of healing prayer, pretty much immediately after you leave the workshop, which is really the whole point. For me, that's been my vision for many, many years. I've been doing this a long time, over 30 years. And that's been my vision right from the beginning, is to, go spread this work to as many places as possible, all over the world if possible, and to teach as many people as possible, and to go, to places wherever we're guided, wherever we end up. I'm working in Ukraine at the moment, just right now, calling from here. And, so we have people going to many, many different countries and bringing what we can to people to help, and to do this work. Because one of the beautiful things about it is that it's very simple, but it's very, very powerful. And people, many people can come, and some people will feel called to do this. Some people just won't feel called. Anyone can train to do this and learn to do this and just go through the deep practices and embody it and have it happen. But some people would be called, and some people, may not be interested, just carry on with their lives, or just use it at home for their family, or something like that.
Right.
So those who are called, those who are called to do this work, it's they can learn it and set it up, and it'll just start working through them, and they'll find themselves in service in a very powerful way. Very fast.
Not dependent on anything outside of them, right? Would you say?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. And this is the beauty of it. You don't have to bring any equipment, maybe just some thing to play music on, that's it. We use a special kind of music as well that, invokes emotional response and release, and that helps. The medium of music and sound is really important because it helps the energy go. The energy goes through it, and it communicates with the body. The sound and music can communicate with the body in a very different way than speaking. So it goes very, very deep, and it goes right to the source of the trauma or the pain or whatever it might be, the sickness in the body, whatever people are carrying. And then it can release and cleanse and purify and clean out the body very, very fast. The music and sound is a very powerful medium to use. It kind of flushes everything through, and people just start to literally to melt, So, and there's many, many people out there, that don't even know this exists, that are in pain, they're struggling, they might be having a very, very tough time. They might have to make some very difficult decisions. And, there's all kinds of, people struggling. And so one of my visions is that I just want people to know that this exists, that there is hope, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there's somewhere to go where you can have a safe sanctuary, a healing place, and we can help you. We can help you with these things.
Is there I have questions written here. Is there a different approach to, so I did read that you worked with paramilitaries. So is there a different approach who you're working with, whether it was like a childhood trauma or something in adult, or does this kind of does it cross all of those things? If somebody is wondering if it could possibly be for me or help with something that I lived a long time ago, or if it's something kind of new, is it the same approach?
Yeah, the energy, the healing energy is the same, and the approach for everything we adapt, and it can be different. So for very young people, it can be different. The approach can be much more gentle and much more sensitive. For ex-forces guys, for military, people have seen a lot of action, they have PTSD or something, if they're really struggling with things like that, there's very specific work that we can do with them, and or people survivors of abuse or all kinds of things like that. There's also very specific work that we can do with them. So it's just doing the same work using the same energy, but in different ways to adapt to the situation and what they're dealing with and how they are, and also how we watch very carefully how they respond and react to the work, and then just navigate it to a place where is most beneficial for them in different ways at different times. So some people can go through processes very fast. Some people it takes more time. So we need to be aware of that as well.
Right.
And so yeah, it's the same energy, it's the same process more or less, but in different ways. And teachings come through in different at different times as well for different people. So we really have no idea what's what the setup for each day is. So it's an intuitive process. So we just kind of go with a lot of guidance and direction in each moment. But there is, just to answer your question, there is very particular work that for sure that we do with people in different categories of healing that needs special focus, special attention, and special work, or special sensitivity, or also some special kind of knowledge to know how to deal with these things in the right way, at the right time, and different things to say or not say, and there's all kinds of criteria there for that, and that's important to know. It's important to know all these ways.
Right. What does my friend Christine, who is off camera, but I'm going to give her a shout out.
Hi, Christine.
What is the basic structure of the healing process?
So the basic structure is just a practical reality version is that we have a large room. It could be anything from 20, 30, 40, 50 people sitting in a circle. And so when people come first, I do just a very brief introduction, maybe for half an hour, 40 minutes, just to give people an idea of the protocol, what to do, what not to do, how it works, what's happening, what this is, just a short intro. And then we jump into this work straight away, pretty much. So play some special music to bring people into a very deep meditative state. And, just to bring them out of the traffic and the noise and the shopping and family and all the dramas of normal, life. And so bring them into the sanctuary, bring them into the sacred space. So we create a very beautiful, safe, silent, sacred sanctuary space, sitting in a circle. So then we're playing some music, a few tracks of some very special music. And then I say special healing prayer, invocation, and the energy opens up and it comes in, the healing energy. And then we get people, whoever wishes to speak or who's ready to speak, we get them to share anything, any particular reason they have come,
right,
anything they'd like to heal or work on or explore, or whatever they envisage for the day or the week. And so just to give us an idea of what we're dealing with and what people want and what they need and how we can best serve them. So after that, we go around to everyone, and then we start the prayer. So the prayer is intuitive. It's an organic, natural prayer that comes. So words just come and energy comes. And we basically just communicate with our creator and the field and the light that comes in when we ask for the healing to begin. And the intelligence of the energy that comes through knows exactly where to go in the body. When it comes into the body, to the precise source of the discord or the disharmony or the trouble or the pain or the sickness or the trauma, whatever it might be. So the intelligence of the energy knows where to go. So we just ask it to come in, ask it to do the best possible healing for everyone concerned in the most appropriate way. And so it's a very safe, very simple process, but it's very, very powerful. And the sharing that people get to do is very powerful. And the interaction, the communication between each other is very powerful. And the energy, when the energy comes in, it's very potent, very strong. So the energy is the most important thing, because we can talk about many things for a long time, like people do in psychotherapy or psychoanalysis. Yeah. There's a point where when the energy comes through and the healing begins, in this process, or this kind of process, that's what really transmutes the memory, the cellular memory, and the source imprints and impressions of trauma, pain, configurations of disease. So the energy, the prayers, the invocation that brings through the energy and opens up the healing, that's really the most important thing after the sharing. So, and that's what transmutes, that's what changes the base foundation pattern in the body for people, and changes the mindsets and belief systems, and any kind of destructive behavior patterns or anything like that that no longer is useful for us. It exposes it, it brings it up so we get to see it. Sometimes it's not pretty for people, but it's real, and so we can get to see our own self-sabotage, our own self-destructive behaviors maybe. And if we're willing, and that, like what I was talking earlier about, when people are, no matter what they think, if they're willing to see it and they're willing to change it, then there's no problem. If somebody's not willing to go there and change things, there's pretty much nothing you can do. There's nothing anyone can do until, unless or until such time as, as they are willing to do the personal self-inquiry work, and be very honest with themselves as to what they're doing, what's really going on in life, what's not going on in life, where I should be, where I shouldn't be in life, all these different things, 1,000 different things. So yeah, it's like
that. So when you're in this space, do you visually see people shift in a moment? Like, can you like the way people carry themselves, or is it like it can be that impactful, like in a moment?
Absolutely. People go through all kinds of changes and shifts all the time. So where people's fields and their whole psyche and their mind and their bodies we're changing all the time. So there's not a moment really that goes by where something isn't shifting or changing or moving. But when people go through a deep healing like this, and especially a revelationary type of process where they can have these, self-realizations and these, kind of enlightenment experiences, like where they shift from, for me, an enlightenment experiences where, I think something, and then I might have a mindset or a belief system about something, and then I suddenly realize, oh, hang on a minute, there's a bigger picture here, there's a higher vision here, and this just falls away into the bin, and something else opens up, and you have, a revelationary experience or an enlightenment experience. And we go through thousands of these experiences, all the time, every day, every week, where we, all the micro mini experiences when you're just walking down the street and you see different things and you're taking in huge amounts of information. So people, in the workshop, it's really, really beautiful, because people, you can see the difference so much. People can come in sometimes with very harrowing, harsh stories, and the stories are written inside the body. Like, it's really a case of, your biography becomes your biography. Your biography becomes your biology, and that old saying. And so the stories, as they come out of the body, as they come out of the cellular memory and the soul memory as well, and the history, it's like digging archaeological finds and treasures in your family history, in your ancestral history. Sometimes it's very, very interesting. You can see the weight, literally, you can see the fields change, you can see the density lifting and dissolving. And you can see people, burdens really just falling away that could have been there for, centuries or generations or a long time, or from their childhood, or from any time in their lives that they might be carrying, And and these burdens often they just don't need to carry them. So when that happens, it's so beautiful, because you can see sometimes people come in, guarded or defensive. you see it many times, and you can see the trauma, you can see the pain that we hold sometimes, and they walk out of the workshops really very different people, you know, free and loose, and both in their minds and in their bodies. And when I say loose, I mean in a very softer, more open space,
Right.
where there's more light, when there's more, there's more love. There's the real inherent innate sense of love that every child should have had in their childhood,
Mm.
comes back into the body or reveals itself. Where often, a lot of experiences in childhood for many people, they shut us down and we have no option but to close up and, become defensive. You get hurt and
Right.
uh, just close in. So every experience like that tightens the cellular structure, tightens us down, it shuts down, things get locked and become dense in the body, become dense. And then, when we get sick, when we're 40 or 50 or something, or whatever it might be, people then wonder why, what is this about, so
Right.
the sicknesses sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the sicknesses can be the body's attempt to heal these things, to heal toxic emotional experience, or the impact of trauma, or like when we're mentioning, ex-forces guys coming back from, seeing some things that nobody should see,
Yeah.
that can be really, you can see people different. You can see these guys coming back, and they're not the same. They're
Right.
not the same people. So this is one of the reasons I've been very interested in this, because you can really see the difference. People,
Mm-hmm.
when people come back from somewhere and they're traumatized, and they come out of a workshop and they've let these things go. It's so beautiful. And also that people know that this is possible is one of the most beautiful things, that they can take these experiences and they can change it. There is help,
Right.
there is hope.
Right.
This is what it's all about.
Hearing you speak about transformation that people go through, and just through this whole interview, I'm not hearing you say, I do this, I make this happen. It's like not about you. Um, is it important for you to let people know that it's inside of them, and it's something that they're doing and opening to, rather than perhaps something that you're doing? Is that an important part of this process and the medicine?
Absolutely, Delain. I think it's one of the most important things to begin with, to know and to learn and to realize is, and from the very beginning, every workshop I begin, I say that, I tell people very clear, and I tell people, look, I have never healed anyone in my life. I am not the healer. All the healing is light and powerful energy that comes from God, from our creator, from the gods, from whatever God created you, the healing comes from a different place. It comes from another place. It comes from a higher place, way beyond me or any of us. So I don't identify with the healing or doing the healing or being the healer. You'll see it in the advertising, to where we inform people, there's a healing possibility, and I work as a healer, but I don't identify as the healing energy, because I'm just a normal, ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill guy. And the only difference between me and any other bloke on the street is that I'm just very, very, my whole life, I'm 54 years old now, and for my pretty much since I was 8, for my whole life, most of my life and all my adult life, I've been curious and incredibly interested in being focused on learning about this stuff and researching and studying and really relentlessly like being excited about this whole world, to the point where really, I suppose, I just became obsessed. I became obsessed with finding the source of what this is that has created us, what it is, and the ways that we get damaged or become sick, and why, and how can we heal these things, and where is this healing energy come from? So, and I've seen over and over again many times where, and I've had many teachers, many teachers over the years, and I've seen, some people who go into the healing calling and sometimes identify as the healer, and sometimes the ego can get in the way, and it's made about the person instead of the people. And when you see that, it just feels all wrong, because it doesn't matter about me. I have no interest in wealth or fame or fortune or nothing like this. I'm only interested, and I'm not interested in anything about myself. My main only focus and priority is that if somebody's in pain, if somebody needs help, that we can help them in some way, shape, or form, and that's it. Like,
right.
It's about the people. It's nothing to do with me. Yes, I have experience, and I have a lifetime of doing this, so I'm respected for the work and the experience, but it's the healing. I am not responsible for when people get healed. It is not me. It's coming from, I'm like the translator or the interpreter for for the energy from the intelligence, for the light, the intelligence of that light that comes through. So I guide people through that process, and through the direct them and just help them to figure out what it is inside them and how that can heal in the easiest, fastest ways. And that's it. So I'm more like a guide. I'm the guy with the torch bringing it through the jungle on a dark night. And I've been to the jungle a lot, so I know where all the the snakes and the monkeys and the rhinoceros and whatever it is, the poisonous mosquitoes. I know where they all are, so I'm just I'm just guiding people through the jungle. And so, but really, what we're doing, I suppose, in a way, is we're opening a doorway for people to introduce them to the God that created them, and the light and power and potential of that relationship between them and their creator. And when or where or how the person wants to step through that door is really their own journey. And I will give them everything they need and anything possible to help facilitate that journey for them. And that's the whole point. But that journey between that person and the relationship that they develop and make and hold and sustain with their creator, that's the most beautiful journey. And sometimes it's very interesting, because after a long time of many years doing this, I've seen over and over and over again that people, sometimes when people get sick or have challenges or struggles or major difficulties, and they don't have a faith, or they don't have that relationship, or have it much with their creator, sometimes the sickness is the healing. Sometimes the sickness will force them or guide them on the journey to have no other option but to explore the pilgrimage, the Hajj, the walk, the holy walk, the sacred path to their God, to their creator, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So it's very interesting, the line between healing sickness and the pilgrimage to find the source of creation and your creator, that holy walk or that sacred path. There's a very fine line, and it's a parallel path. So it's like when those two paths meet, you have a very, very powerful experience,
Right.
So we just facilitate that as much as we can for people. I'm nothing special. I'm uh, there's it's not about me. It's about that. It's about that. You know,
Right.
what created us. So yeah,
Mm.
that's where I'm at with that. You know.
Perfect. Beautiful. I wanted to keep it at an hour. We're a little bit over. But it's hard. I feel like we could talk all day long.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I wanted to kind of finish with you travel around the world internationally doing this work, and it's more out of
Mm.
kind of curiosity for me. But if there was like something common that shows up no matter where you are in the world, if there was a message of bringing like hope to people as well inside of that question, and yeah, what that kind of looks like right now in this culture that we're living in.
So yeah, the common things. There's so many common things
Mm.
around the world. Um, you know, so I like, for example, I was walking down the street today, and these school kids are walking down through the city, and they have their furry hats and their little bags, and it was so cute, and they're walking with their parents, and the love and the connection, this preciousness that people have with their children and within their families when they have good situations. It's the same all over the world. People are really the same all over the world, and people have local medicines, different traditions, slightly different cultures, but the basic stuff where people just love their children. They want to bring them up and have good lives, and live safely and have fun, and just that's the basis. That's the most successful thing. That's the most successful thing.
Mm.
It's not building empires or becoming a billionaire, or becoming this or that, or some very important person.
Mhm.
Nobody's important. Nobody's really important. The most and I mean that in the best possible way, with
Yeah.
respect to everyone. Everyone is important, or nobody is important. But when you see families and with their children, and the hope that the next generation brings,
Mm.
and the hope that gives birth to something inside us, that we want life to be good for them. For some of us have lived a lot already, but for this next generation that are coming up, we want the best for them. Of course we want the best for them, and everyone all over the world, no matter what culture you're in, no
Right.
matter what religion you believe in, no matter what mindsets you have or what you think, when you go home and you look at your children and they're happy and
Mm.
they're good and they're safe,
Yeah.
that's success. That's success right there. And that's the greatest success. That's the best thing ever, that every culture has, that everyone has all over the world. And to keep them safe, and to keep them good, and to keep them happy, and whatever that takes. And that's one of the reasons, that I became so interested in this whole life and this whole world, is because many children get so hurt, and
Mm.
in childhood, and that's just wrong, and that should never happen. And so I always knew and felt there's got to be a way. There has to be a way where we can fix this, where we can heal this, where we can go back and we can make this good. So yeah, I think everything else is just extra. Once your family is good, once your children are good, and just that's success right there. The love people have in their families and with their community, and just once you have a roof over your head and enough food on your table for today, and your kids, your children are happy, and your family is good, everything else is extra. You have a successful, good life right there, and tomorrow is a new day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's a new day. So, and everyone around the world, no matter what culture, place, anything, whatever they think, everyone, that's the same for everyone. Everyone has that same sense of success and peace.
Yeah.
You know, once your family are in bed, safe at night, and unfortunately in this world, as we can see, you know, many people don't have that. It's so tragic and so sad.
Yeah.
So one of these, one of the, I think, most important things that we're teaching people with this work and these workshops is, you know, how to follow the guidance of the light that comes through you, and the intelligence of that light that knows everything. It knows the future, it knows the past, it knows the best place for you to get up and go if you need to, or the best place for you to retreat to if you want to. And, you know, so that voice, that guidance, that, you know, those intuitive nuances that we get from a higher source, from a different place, really will show us, no matter what happens, no matter what comes at us, you know, in the coming times or in life, that we just got to trust that. We just got to trust that. And just go with that and wake up every day and just make the source, the God that created you, the source of the God that created you, just make that your primary relationship. Make that your first, most important relationship, and everything else will come after that. Everything else is extra after that. And that will show you, that light will show you where to go, what to do when the time comes, if we need to at any point. It will guide us. There'll be no doubt. Just trust it. Just trust. Have hope. Never give up hope. Never give up. And just trust and watch the magic happen.
Right.
That's I'm not sure if any of that made sense, but
yeah, it was perfect. It was it was beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm being sorry. Yes, so I definitely want to invite anybody and everybody to find more information. You are coming to Canada very soon. You will be in Victoria as well as Edmonton, and I will link your website and also the events wherever we do our posting. And I just want to thank you for taking some time out and sharing and answering my questions. And it's always a pleasure getting to speak with you. And I appreciate you and the work that you're doing in the world. And I look forward to seeing you back here again in Canada when it's cold.
So much, Delain. It'll be a pleasure and an honor. I can't wait to get back. I'm looking forward to it already.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Thank you.
See you.